Hello and welcome to the Empire State Trail Weekly Update, a look at the latest news from across the Erie Canalway and the Empire State Trail. And this is the update for July 26th to August 1st, 2026. And my picture here is we've had a couple visitors from some nice vintage bikes this week at the Hideaway. This Raleigh Supercourse came in from Ohio, was heading to Pennsylvania, and discovered he had a broken spoke, and luckily I had enough of the older tools to be able to help him get it fixed and sorted. This is nice, down tube shifters. They're chrome fork ends. That used to be quite the thing in the old days. A lot of weight, 27-inch tires, 1¼ inch wide. Bald too. I mean, they were slicks, but managing just fine. And our other bike was a little bit older, I think, Fuji Absolute. Got the stem-mounted shifters here. Got the old chain ring guard, so you don't get your pant legs caught in the chain rings. And nice heavily loaded bike. Should have some stuff on the front, but it was working. They were getting along. So let's get into the trail closures. All right, so with trail closures, the list has been updated as of July 24th. I don't see anything new listed here. If we head over to the site called the Canalway Trail Map from our friends at PTNY, LaSalle Park is still going on. Still got the caution there going under 490 in Rochester. You still have the work on the Durhamville Aqueduct here with a short street detour. The big one is this one in Utica, and some of our guests this week said they got kind of confused passing through here. They were coming from the east heading west, and the trail here is closed, and it sends you, the official trail here, I guess, sends you off into downtown Utica around the Whitesboro and back up. Oddly, the New York bike route map, they didn't put people over on the bike route 5, probably just because it's a busier road. But they're showing the detour here going through Utica, but they don't have that extra jog in here, and I don't understand why there are two different maps here. But anyway, just look out for the signs. People, they said they got confused here, and they ended up going way over north, and so anyway, it is what it is, but just be careful of that. And just a word of caution. This popped up in the Facebook page. Somebody was riding along the trail here between Loch Berlin and Lyons. And there's a guy here who has a bee in his bonnet about the trail going through his land. He supposedly he owned the land, or he kind of moved on to it once the trail was abandoned, once the canal was abandoned, and had claimed it was his. And then when the state put the trail through, they said, this is our land. And if you know what I'm talking about, if you've been there, just ride by him. He's just a crazy guy who's expressing his voice, and he's got some obscenities along the trail, and he's got a speaker and a siren that goes off. Just be ready for it. Ride by it. Give him a wave. Say hi. He ain't doing anything to anybody. Just, expressing his voice. So, just a caution. And I was introduced to Eliza, at the new hire at Parks and Trails, New York, who is going to be working on the Canal Towns initiative. So welcome to Eliza. And we look forward to working with you as we expand our Trail Towns efforts. And in news this week, this popped up, the big payout for Dutchess and Putnam landowners, the $3 million settlement. And what was happening, this was down on the proposed Beacon Hopewell Trail, which will connect to the Empire State Trail. And they had sued because when the line was abandoned, they claimed the land, the old railroad land returned to them. The government came in, took the land for the trail. The homeowners, property owners sued, and the lawyers want you to know that if you have land adjoining a rail trail, that you can sue and make some money off that. And so that's what's going on there, and it sets a precedent for future rail trail expansions, that homeowners or landowners can get payouts for that. What else is going on? What the heck is a DEI bike lane? This is from the League of American Bicyclists. And you may have heard this week that they came out and they said that they're no longer funding DEI bike lanes and all that stuff, and your money is going towards cars and bridges and shipping ports and all those manly things that we need to have. And silly bike lanes and other DEI facilities, pedestrian facilities, are not going to get funded anymore under a manly government. I don't know. This is down in Rotterdam Junction. Siblings work through heat, rain, smoke to paint mural on the inside of the tunnel there. It goes underneath the railroad tracks at Rotterdam Junction. And they're making this so it's graffiti proof, I hope, because it's kind of a out of the way spot. So hopefully idiots don't get in there and start doing stupid things. But it's nice to see that these guys are putting on a mural there, and it'll be a nice addition to the trail. And I think that's all we have for news this week. And one of our groups had a card from Frank Rusty Brown here in Ilion, wanting people to know that they have a marina there and an RV park along the canal. And it is on the Cycle the Canalway Trail map. And they welcome cyclists to stay. He wanted to get the word out, apparently. They do charge $20 a night. And no reservations, but you can just drop in. They have bathroom facilities, showers, electric. You can stay under the pavilion, so a restaurant nearby. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. So a couple episodes ago, I did this deep dive into the Empire State Trail and the oversight and how complicated it can be, why things get done or don't get done, or who do you report to when you have an issue. And so I had this little flow chart here, and I've been interested in how other large trail organizations, trail efforts maintain or provide oversight onto their projects. So I was looking at the Gap Trail, which is it is a totally different environment. Our issue is in New York State is we have the Canal Corporation. And let me go back to this one here. We have the Canal Corporation. It has 150 miles of trail. It's an active canal. The trail is on their property. They are going to provide, they'll have volunteers out there, but you ain't going to get volunteers out there clearing trails, fixing potholes and stuff like that. This is all going to be under the Canal Corp control. And people want it that way because the Canal Corp has money. It has more money than a volunteer group would have. Let's say it that way. They have equipment. They have engineers. They have a workforce. So New York State benefits by having the Canal Corp own such a big chunk of the land. But sometimes it can be a little frustrating if you're trying to get something done, if you're trying to talk to somebody or whatnot. So anyway, so moving on to the Gap Trail. The Gap Trail uses a completely different management philosophy. They have the Great Allegheny Passage Conservancy, and it's a 21-member board. And they play this executive role where they kind of provide coordination, oversight. They have 2 paid staff. Their expenses, the one I found was in 2024, $350,000, and $130,000 of that was in salaries. So their two people are fairly well compensated. And they have all these organizations here, are all these entities: the city of Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, Allegheny County, I'm not quite sure. These are two different counties. Point State Park, Regional Trail Corp, State of Maryland, they all have a voting member that sits on this board. And they together decide what's going to happen. Mileage markers, advertising, promotion, all that stuff, maintenance, what has to happen. And then they go down to the Regional Trail Corporation, which has these 5 entities here, and you can read those all. And each trail council or chapter is a separate independent 501c3, and it raises money on its own, and they maintain a bit of trail. And some of this I was able to find out how much they had, like I think this is Youth Trail River Council. They have 23 miles. This Winsett Fayette Trail Council has 5 miles. So they all have a bit of the trail, and they all kind of do their own thing. They're all working independently, but together under the Great Allegheny Passage. And then you have these other volunteer groups that are not members of the Regional Trail Corporation. And so this is a 501c3. These are all 501c3. This is a 501c3, so they can all raise money, encourage volunteerism. And most of the work, I think all the work on the Gap Trail is done by volunteers through these different councils and chapters. So when people talk about seeing mileage markers on the Gap Trail, or uniform branding or whatever, this is why. This is because the Gap Trail has this kind of overarching entity that's controlling, or they're voting on it together, how the trail is going to be maintained, how it's going to look. And the Gap Trail is a fantastic trail. I've never ridden on it, but it connects to the C&O Trail at Cumberland, Maryland. And the C&O is controlled by the federal government. It's 184 miles, but it's a little bit rougher. People say you can do this with a gravel bike, but you need something a little bit wider tires for the C&O Trail, because it's just a little bit rougher. The federal government controls that whole trail. So anyway, it's interesting to see how these other trails are maintained and organized. And one of the reasons I keep plugging away at this and looking at this is because we have a kind of a looming crisis coming up on the Empire State Trail. And our looming crisis is these 20 or 25 year agreements. I've been trying to find one online, and I found kind of the blank forms or whatnot. But basically, back in 2017, when Governor Cuomo proposed finishing the trail, the state came to these local owners and said, we will build the trail if you will take it over and maintain it for 20 years, 25 years, whatever the agreement says. And basically says you have to keep it mowed, you have to keep it open, you can't shut it down, you can't turn it into a highway, you just have to offer a minimum maintenance. And I think if there's a bridge or a major structure, the state said, you don't own that, we'll take care of that, but the trail surface, the dirt surface, or the stone dust surface, or the paved surface, you guys own it. And well, we're getting up to the point where some of the trails are getting pretty wore out and they need replacement. And a little town or a village that has an annual budget of a couple $100,000 with 4,000 residents doesn't have the money to maintain these. So, and they say, I've talked about this before. They say, well, okay, go apply for a grant, and, we'll give you some matching funds and you can do the trail surface and whatnot. Well, these guys don't have grant writers. They don't have administrators. they don't have the matches. I mean, when you have an annual budget of a couple $100,000, you don't have that. And so there's going to be a lot of segments of the trail that are just going to fall further and further into not disuse, but into, going back to nature. Let's say it that way. So with all that in mind, the cost of rebuilding the trail, you get quoted $75,000, $100,000 to rebuild a mile of trail. Is there a way to refresh it? Is there a low-cost alternative that a town with a two-guy maintenance force can go out with a roller, refresh the trail, add a little stone dust, get rid of the grass, get rid of the junk, and just kind of make it look better, make it work a little better, get rid of the potholes and all that. And so this PTH Products out of Germany might have a solution that maybe we could try. This is a mountain bike restorer. If you ever watched a mountain bike race or seen a mountain bike park, they'll get these grooves. They have these high banks and they get these grooves. So these different machines are used to rehabilitate the trail. And they've got a whole bunch of different things. But the micro crusher here I thought was interesting because you can put it onto a bobcat, you can put it onto a tractor, and you can drag it along and revitalize the trail, bring it back. And this seems to be something that, anybody could do. Let us know. Let us know if anybody's trying this, if it worked, if it didn't work, and maybe we can find a solution for this. So moving on to the calendar, pretty busy month. We have the Brockport Arts Festival. We have the Cycle the Hudson, heading down along the Hudson Valley. Little Falls Canal Days going on the 5th through the 9th. And then the New York State Fair on the 26th and through the first weekend of September. And the New York State Fair is the one that's going to impact you. If you happen to be cycling through, you're just going to have to be aware of there's going to be a lot of traffic in Syracuse, and you look for alternatives to get around the parking lots there where the trail goes through the parking lots. These other things would be nice to stop and see. Little Falls is a beautiful little community, and if you have time to go to their canal days, it's certainly worth the effort. And Cycle the Hudson, another effort by Parks and Trails to highlight the Empire State Trail. So hopefully that goes off well. And that's it for this Empire State Trail Weekly. And please note that And that's it for this Empire State Trail Weekly. Please note that this is an independent weekly update and is not affiliated with New York State, the Canal Corporation, or any official trail agency. Information is based on publicly available sources and rider reports. And please remember to give this a like and subscribe. Let me know if you have any trail revitalization, rehabilitation efforts going on at low cost that we could share. And we will see you next week.